Greetings. I'm Dr. Camisha Chambers, and I have the distinct honor of serving as the Nurturing Communities Coordinator for All in Community. So, in our previous videos, we have talked about looking at wellness and defining the concept of wellness and taking the time to be really intentional about differentiating wellness versus well being. And so when you talk about being, when you talk about a state of well being, that is almost like your destination, right? How you've arrived. You've gotten to your desired place of being. But this is the thing, you don't just wake up and you're there. It takes time. So if you are traveling from, I don't know, let's say Georgia to Florida, right? If you're traveling from Atlanta, Georgia to Disney World and you're taking your kids there, there is a process to getting there. Your desired place is Disney World to have a ball, right? But you don't just wake up and you're in Disney World. You got to get there, right? You have to travel. It's the same with well-being and obtaining a state of well-being. When you are considered well, that is your place that you have finally been able to say, I am at peace. I am well in my spirit. I am well in my body. I am well in my mind. I am well comprehensively. I feel really good. Um, and I'm okay, right? But in order to achieve that, you have to go on a wellness journey. And wellness is looking at daily activities towards helping us to get to that state of well being. And so, what do those daily activities look like? What areas can we work on each and every day for our mental, for our physical, for our spiritual, from our family perspective, from our external factors? Like, what are all the factors? What are all the dynamics that go into play that are a part of my wellness journey? What am I doing each and every day to achieve that state of well being? What am I doing purposefully, setting aside each day for me, nobody else, just me, so that I can be well overall? So that's what we originally started talking about, just trying to define and give a quick recap of that. So as we go into today's time together, it's important to note one of those pieces in the wellness economy, right? The wellness economy is what you're looking at that goes into your full wellness journey. So there's different components that go along with it. We listed some, right? Your mental, your physical, spiritual, external, external factors, what all goes into your wellness economy. So today we want to uplift food, healthy eating. I know a lot of us love to eat, a lot of us enjoy food. I know I'm one of them. And so, really taking the time to talk about how food plays a major part in our lives, and it plays a major part in our wellness journey, and ultimately helping us to achieve a state of well being. Food plays a major part in that. But before we get there and talking about why food plays a major part, it is critical to note that food culturally is a staple in so many different places. I know I can speak for me as an African American woman. In the African American culture, food plays a major part. There's a documentary that I love, I mean, absolutely adore, actually. It's called High on the Hog, and it's on Netflix. And I believe his name is Steven Satterfield. He's a chef, a world-renowned chef, and he travels the globe and he talks about how African American food has really been embedded into American food culture, and looking at how it has shaped a lot of the foods that we consume here in America. And so taking the time to travel with Chef Satterfield. He goes all over from Africa, coming into America. He goes to different places like New York and Chicago and Atlanta, like North Carolina, South Carolina. He really takes the time to look at and explore the ways that food has played a major part in African American culture. And just for me, right, as a 40 plus year old African American woman, I have seen where food shows up in a lot of ways. It shows up in my family functions. It shows up in my church functions. It shows up in my sister gatherings, right? When I have my time of being with my sister friends and just getting away for a little bit and, doing a time of gathering, it's always where are we about to go eat? Or if we're going to someone's house, what can we bring to eat? Food is a bonding tool that happens a lot in culture. You learn about one another at the dinner table. You commune at the dinner table. You network. You grow. You develop. You problem solve. You do all these things over the dinner table. And so it's important to note food culturally is a main staple in a lot of different areas. Also, when you look at the church community, if you look at how folks, especially in the United Methodist denomination, there are a lot of our church friends, right? I know in the East and West Ohio conferences where the moment you walk in the door, you are greeted with a beautiful scent of a meal being prepared for you. Food is the way that we really truly connect, even in the church settings. So it's really sweet to be able to think about how food has been a tool to help us, not only just to fuel us, right, to take care of our physical needs, but also it takes care of our emotional needs. But it's also important to note that when we are not consuming the right kinds of foods, it can be counterproductive. So, why does food play a major part in our wellness journey? Why would there be, for a wellness economy, a portion dedicated to healthy eating? Well, science has shown us that when you are consuming the right kinds of food, it plays into your wellness journey and ultimately your state of well being. And so Harvard Health, they produced a blog where they showed us, and they said these words, and I quote, your brain is always on. It takes care of your thoughts and movements, your breathing and your heartbeat, your senses. It works hard 24/7, even while you're asleep. This means your brain requires a constant supply of fuel, and that fuel, air quote, comes from the foods you eat. And what's in that fuel makes all the difference. So, simply put, what you eat directly affects the structure and function of your brain and ultimately your mood. So there was I believe it was a commercial or a quote, or somebody said it. I don't know who the person originally was who stated it, but it was a statement that says, you are what you eat. And so it shows up in multiple ways in our bodies, our health conditions, all of that. A lot of it can be linked back to the foods that we consume. And so, eating high quality foods that contain a lot of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, etc., it nourishes the brain and it protects it from oxidative stress, which is oxidative stress has been defined as the waste or free radicals that's produced when the body uses oxygen, which can damage cells. And so, when we are consuming the right kinds of food, our brain is being nourished and it is also being protected from oxidative stress. Now, on the flip side, when we eat foods that are high in refined sugars, that are processed, deeply processed kinds of foods, what happens is, in addition to it being harmful to our brains, it worsens our body's regulation of insulin. It promotes inflammation and oxidative stress, which we just talked about, which can damage cells um, if we are consuming highly refined processed foods, it's promoting oxidative stress. So that's why we see a lot of folks who are consistently dealing with chronic illnesses who are not consuming the right kinds of foods. These are the reasons why. Not only is it impairing our brain function, but it makes our symptoms of mood disorders, such as depression and anxiety, worse. So, one of the things that we want to note, right, a special note, if you're a person who's dealing with chronic illness, if you are dealing with a mental challenge, and if you are finding yourself doing a diet switch, right, and it's still not helping, we really urge you to go and consult a medical professional. These times that we have together are not prescriptive and they are not end all be all moments for you. Our hope, right, with the nurturing community space is just to offer solution-based tools that can assist you in your wellness journey. It's not defining your wellness journey. It's just here to assist you because we want to make sure that if there is a chemical imbalance, we want to encourage you to seek the right kind of medical attention and treatment for yourself so that you can really be well. It's important. And also, if I may put a plug in, there is a deep stigma that we know from individuals when a person has to go on medication for disorders, right? Anxiety, depression, different things of that nature. It's not horrible, right? If you have to do that. What that means is that there is a chemical imbalance in your brain that's happening, and the medication helps. It does not have to be used long term. It can be used short term. And then also, a lot of times, folks don't need medication, they just need therapy. So, we want to make sure that we note that it is okay if you find yourself trying these solution based tools and they're not working for you. It's okay to seek additional treatment and further your health journey for yourself. You deserve to be fully well, and whatever tools you need to make that happen, we deeply encourage that. But getting back into the food piece, when we talk about why that is so important, it's because we note that there's something called serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that helps us. It helps to regulate sleep and appetite. It also mediates moods and it inhibits pain. 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut or in the gastrointestinal tract. Our gastrointestinal tracts are aligned with 100 million nerve cells, and it makes sense that the inner workings of your digestive system um, don't just help you digest food, but also it guides your emotions. And so when you think about a person who's struggling mood-wise or who's attitudinal or who has a lot of irritable moments, they could be dealing with effects of traumatic exposures and traumatic wounds. And so when you are already impacted by trauma, your body is responding to that. You might find that it's hard for you to have proper bowel movements. You might experience constipation. You might experience mood change. You're irritable, all these kinds of things. That is normal responses to trauma. Our bodies are responding to the stress and the pain of traumatic wounds. And it's also important to note that if you're dealing with that, and if that's the current space that you're in, and if you're fueling yourselves with the wrong kind of foods, we just talked about it, serotonin, which mediates all of our moods and inhibits pain, is in the gastrointestinal tract. So if it's not getting the proper help it needs to function well, it's making sense as to why your moods, your irritability, and your physical body is thrown off. So these are the reasons why it's not just a matter of saying, oh, eat healthy because it sounds good. It really does play a major part in our mental health and well-being. So what does your wellness journey look like, right? What did you consume as we go into this next piece? and saying my question is, what did you consume this morning, or what did you consume before you looked at this video and recording, or what are you consuming now while we're even having this moment together? Things to think about. But it's also important to note that the Harvard Health blog also brought some additional information to us. And if you are a Christian, right, if you subscribe to Christianity, it makes sense why the Bible talks a lot about diets such as the Mediterranean diet. Studies showed from the Harvard Health blog that when they compared traditional diets, like the Mediterranean diet and the traditional Japanese diet, to a typical traditional Western diet, they showed that the risk of depression was 25 to 35% lower in those who eat a traditional diet. And this is because that Mediterranean diet, right, that we just talked about, it is high in vegetables, high in fruit, low in um, processed foods or anything like that, low sugar, none of that. Which you'll also see in the Mediterranean diet is unprocessed grains and fish and seafood. And it contains modest amount of lean meats and dairy. These types of diets actually are not something that you typically see in the Western patterns here. In Western foods, you see a lot of processed foods, a lot of refined foods, foods that are high in sugar. Now, I know there may be some healthy folks on here that are listening. I get it. Yes, apples contain sugar. I understand fruits have sugar in it. I'm talking about modified, refined sugars that man has really put their hands into, not natural science foods, right? Not foods that we grow from the garden or foods that we get from the ground, foods that God has given to us. I'm not talking about that food. I'm talking about man-made foods. So I want to make sure I also note that too, because when we've had live in-person classes, folks have brought that out. And yes, an apple does have sugar in it, but we're talking about good kinds of natural foods here. But the reason as to why these kind of diets worked is because of what they all entailed. And so it lowered risk of depression. It helped with individuals who were dealing with anxiety. It helped with different mood disorders. When they ate properly, their gut was able to fully function. The serotonin that was produced in their tract, their gastrointestinal tract, was able to function the way that it was supposed to function. So you'll see a person, vegans, I don't think I've ever met an angry vegan. It makes sense, right? When you begin to think about what a vegan diet looks like. Now, I'm not encouraging people to be vegan, but I'm just saying those that I know who are subscribing to that diet, they are functioning better, they feel better, they flow better because their bodies are in line, because they have produced high premium fuel for themselves. So these are just some of the tidbits that we want to consistently drop your way just to begin to think about. I want to make sure that I end this particular note or this particular video with this note. I want to go back to it. I said it before. Everything that we do in a nurturing community space is all designed to be a tool or an assistant to you. It is not prescribed. It is not something that we are forcing you to do. It is not something that we are telling you to do. We just know science is real. Science is helpful. Science is something that should be respected, and we do respect it. So we bring it into this space based upon evidence-informed research that we know has helped others, and we just want to bring it your way to see if it can possibly help you. So give it a try. Give yourself, if you feel like it, we would invite you to look at a week of a diet that is like a Mediterranean diet. Look at fueling yourself for 7 days with foods that are void of processed and refined sugar, but looking at fruits, vegetables, legumes, seafood, fish, if you're able to handle it, if you don't have an allergy to that. Look at consuming those kind of foods for 7 days and see what happens to your body. You might sleep better, you might feel better, you might come to a place to where you decide this is something I might want to incorporate moving forward. Because this is the reality of things. We are living in a society right now that is inundated with traumatic exposures. All of us have experienced some level of trauma. And if you are in the state of Ohio, we have a lot of things that's on the horizon from a budget perspective to all kinds of things. We have a lot of friends in Ohio who are experiencing budget cuts, loss of jobs, health insurance, all kinds of challenges. So our state is experiencing a lot of stress. And so we don't want you to stay stuck in that place. We want to be able to offer tools to help you and continue to nurture you through that process. So reach out to us if there's anything that we can do for you. I can be reached at nurturingcoordinator@gmail.com. Once again, it's nurturingcoordinator@gmail.com. It's all spelled out nurturingcoordinator@gmail.com if you need any additional assistance or if you have any questions about any of the wellness videos that we produce for you, or if you have any questions about our in-person trainings that are coming up in the fall. We want to walk alongside you because we really, really want you to be well. All right, thanks again for listening today. I hope you have a great, prosperous, fruitful, and productive day. Take care.